Good evening from the Health Education Campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic.
All right, guys.
Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the Commission or the two candidates.
I can't figure out why
this debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the Commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
How you doing, man? I'm ready.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong, and where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time. Even if we did it after the election itself, I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster.
What did Obama try to do?
Garland, but
before you got elected,
didn't have the election. So
and you have 45 days.
Probably that would
not
happen
months.
in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
I love how
President Trump,
they can forget 4 years ago.
Question to you, Vice President Biden. You have
Biden doesn't bring that up.
First of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is, and that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States.
You're making his argument.
That chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he.
All right, we're
governing
just
on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid
skipping over to the Supreme Court,
the
Justin.
Affordable Care Act,
And right in
which
the
will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court, and the justice, and I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing is on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets, and that ended when we in fact passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay.
They haven't.
Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
knows
going
that.
to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to
This
socialist.
is, we're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
White.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed
Certainly
is that
ain't
we
give
expand
everyone
the
health
care
care.
and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
Not what you've said.
But-
and it's
Yeah,
not
we
what
know
your
you don't
party
support
says.
single payer.
Your party doesn't say it. Your party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine.
party is
What are you
right
talking
now. I am
And
the
they're going to
Democrat.
dominate you.
Well, no, he's like, you're 11. Mine, like, no, fucking not.
No one thinks that but you, Trump, and your supporters for some reason.
Approved of, what I approved of. Now here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe,
Yeah,
you
is COVID a pre-existing condition?
military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me. I'm happy to talk about. And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't be
the deal.
Proper health care in the military? That's why military personnel died? Because they don't have proper health care?
Okay.
which was heavily infected.
You're the fucking president, dude.
And gentlemen,
Which was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
They're just already, everyone's
This is gonna
screaming over
This
each
is going
other.
to be a shit show.
Oh my God.
COVID in the next
Isn't it, buddy?
Go ahead.
let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed.
Let me
to
finish,
Roe v.
Jack.
Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the
Rez,
court.
go.
In the court.
Go. Rez,
And
go.
so that's also
Go
at
ahead.
stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot.
I-
Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not on the ballot.
it's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald,
We have two geriatric,
View on
demented
Wade.
I
You
don't know.
people who have no idea what they care about. They just know who's paying them,
Back here, gentlemen. We got a
arguing points they don't understand.
On health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
It's
gonna
gonna
be
be really
President,
painful.
the Supreme Court will
This
For
is
both
why-
sides, for everyone.
A week
Why we're
after the
drinking.
election, the administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last
Because they
If
want to
I-
give
if I-
good
if I-
health care.
If I may,
What does that mean?
What is the good health care that we're gonna get?
to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in
course.
these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes, I
to
have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you an
rid of
I'm
the
gonna- and when I
individual
finish, I'm
mandate.
going to give you an
Excuse me,
opportunity.
I got
when
rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive-
That is not a plan.
Absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't
the
ask
He
you.
needs to grow some balls. He's not going to get through this debate.
I'll ask Joe. The
no,
individual
I-
mandate was the most unpopular
Mr. Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like
and
you
we
to-
will
Mr.
protect people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, you
Are
have
you
come up
fucking
with a
sure?
comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something. That
You're such a baby. You're such a fucking baby.
drug prices
God,
are
grow
up,
nuts,
bitch.
which
dude.
no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47.
You said that 4 years ago.
You didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
about
All of the things.
cutting healthcare, yeah.
Insulin. I give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth? So cheap.
What are you talking
All of
about?
the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug
He's
prices,
saying that he's
we're gonna allow our
gonna get,
governors now to
you're
go
gonna
to
get
other countries
insulin
to
for like
buy
the
drugs
price of
because
water
they pay
with
just a
him.
tiny
As I
fraction.
say, this is open discussion.
No,
Let me
but
ask
this is
you,
big.
let me,
This
you'll
is
be
big.
happy.
Oh my god.
I'm telling you, this is, I don't know how I'm gonna watch this.
Guys, I don't know why we did this.
I told you this is gonna be an absolute shit
public
show.
option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, I thought
He's like,
it will end private insurance.
this is gonna
and
suck.
create a public
Sucks.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people.
I was kicked off Medicaid for earning over $400 a month, so
Excuse me, Medicaid would automatically.
really gotta be poor.
Bullshit.
Really gotta be
The
poor.
vast majority of the American people.
I'm a high
still
priority.
not be in that.
I'm labeled as high
So
priority.
you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie
Number-
Sanders,
I-
who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
When
we
you-
call it.
with
and that
manifesto-
gives you
Manifesto.
Look, here, I'm just
saying you
talking
didn't
and
agree?
listen to him. The fact of the matter is,
So I-
people-
I'm not we can't even be
Trump's
serious.
strategy is just gonna say, you're a leftist, you're a socialist. This is your plan, not Bernie's plan, your
Everybody
plan.
knows how to
And
do it.
no one believes
Here's the
that.
deal. I got
Except
Trump
Trump
supporters
supporters, apparently.
tonight as well. And tonight I'm going
Yeah,
to make sure,
those are the-
because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is
What's the
that
deal,
everything
Joe?
he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his
shit.
lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree,
want to
and
make
Joe,
sure.
you're the liar.
I want to make
Joe,
sure.
you're the liar.
Last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make sure. He doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
Be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night.
Long night.
The whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak.
Number two.
There is no manifesto.
I
I think he meant the Unity Task Force.
You agreed
Document.
with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
how,
Yeah, it's the Unity Task Force
no
document.
idea what this clown's
Socialized-
doing. You have
Oh, that's such a, it's a,
Mr.
I'll
President,
tell you what, he is not for any help to people needing health care.
Bernie?
Because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health care at a much lower price
But-
because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare-
done.
Obamacare is just the state paying for private healthcare. Whatever.
And it's too expensive.
let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better. And I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate.
Pre-existing.
Listen, this is the way it is.
Pre-existing.
And that destroyed, they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice
I
to make. Do I let my
feel like
bill run really
Obama, Oprah.
Well, badly. If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay? I said, you got to run it so well. I just had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run
Guys, this is making me way too happy to watch
it's too expensive.
the American system crumble so
I
quickly.
called it when I thought Joe Biden was going to win the primary. I was like, can you imagine these two dudes debating? Like,
He did say that all the
it's
time.
going to be a shit show.
Sends,
Please.
Can we think for a minute what a Bernie versus Trump debate would be like? Oh, they'd probably already be throwing hands.
promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is,
to
he
explain it.
doesn't know what he's talking about.
Chris Wallace asked him to explain his plan, and basically the first sentence was, I got insulin the price of water.
Republicans go ahead.
That's his plan.
Justice Barrett. There has been talk
Insulin's so cheap it's like water.
or even packing.
Okay, that helps me a lot. I have no insurance.
You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote.
I feel very uncomfortable.
Now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel.
Tell us what we're voting for. We vote for you.
In fact,
Are you going to end the filibuster?
senators. I'm not going to answer the question because
You're not going to answer the question. That's a question you're telling us to vote on, but you won't answer it.
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Shut up, man.
all right.
Gentlemen, I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
We have
I'm not going to give a list.
we have
This might end early.
move on to the second subject.
Chris Wallace might just walk out.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second
I need another drink.
COVID-19 is a really serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had
Let's try to be serious.
million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021,
I was hidden in a basement.
why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this?
If Biden doesn't talk about the pandemic
The question
task force Obama administration created, he's an idiot.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is.
Ooh, damn, Joe, that was a good one.
He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want it to panic.
Best line so far.
He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do?
Joe is winning
And
now.
we were insisting
My
that the
opinion.
Chinese
He's already winning.
They should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
2
March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need.
God, can't agree more with that.
Open schools. It costs
$2.2 trillion just sitting there waiting.
And get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to
You
you,
have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it
It's
from
China's
happening.
fault, you
China's
dumb
fault.
motherfucker.
By the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China.
You
You
know,
don't know how many people died in
I watched a video today about a woman,
an
an old woman in a nursing home who was just distraught because she's not able to have contact with her family. She has dementia, right? And it was a conservative group talking about it. So, and they were like, "When is this going to end? It would end if you motherfuckers would have stayed in your house for 3
You
months."
wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of
Actually,
lives. Many
this is, I hate Biden,
President
but
Trump did a phenomenal
Obama, he
job.
threw out Biden and Obama's pandemic,
Governors said I did a
like,
phenomenal job.
plan of like preparedness. I don't know what they called it.
It's sad, but Joe has every right to laugh at everything he's saying.
Did a phenomenal job. We did.
What I would
I mean,
do.
this is-
What are you doing?
Trump did a phenomenal job. Okay, 200,000 people dead. Phenomenal job.
Therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying.
That's actually definitely not
The
true.
only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
Yeah, you could have never killed 200,000
I
people.
know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu.
Okay.
Disaster. Your own chief.
Woo!
Disaster.
Got him.
People
Got him.
200,000.
Got him.
There was no economic
Swine flu killed so many people.
Let's talk about how many people that died from Ebola
No,
too.
we didn't shut down the economy. This is
Because the Obama administration went to Africa whenever they heard about Ebola, studied it, learned it before it ever introduced
had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID. How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And
You would
How would you
Shut up. Shut up, Trump.
His own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up, he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson &
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
and
gentlemen,
His
let me
team
move on to
prepared him.
questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions
You
I'm
know
going to
Trump
ask.
can do anything to prepare.
Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly
What his followers?
either contradicted or
Wanna
been
abuse that
involved with
shit.
some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last,
Deny.
the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was
about to get
confused
cold again, too.
and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slawi, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political
So
thing.
they're both wrong.
Like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster. than
Although
that.
I have to say, I'm a lot happier that it's Biden up stage, not Hillary Clinton.
So you're
Well,
saying
what I
that the
call
head
it.
of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slawi?
I disagree with them. Yeah, no, I disagree
I-
with them.
we would not
disagree. Okay, so he disagrees with the leaders of his vaccine team. He disagrees with them.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just
As
like
he said,
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available. not when
Well,
it
we're
will
going to
be.
deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers
Very
soldiers,
set up
and
to
they can do
administer
200,000 a
vaccines.
day. They're going to be
This
delivering
is the
the
same man
It's
who
all
told
set up.
you by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle.
That's why I said
Maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm and that would take care of it.
said sarcastically.
That was
That was said
And
sarcastically.
so here's the deal.
That was said sarcastically. I was being sarcastic. While people were dying, I was just making jokes.
Yo, look at his
Talking
freaking
about maybe
like-
having a vaccine
line there. Oh my god.
will not occur until
Like,
sometime
as
after
a model, I just want to go in there and like
we get the vaccine.
fill it in for him.
Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice
Maybe
President,
we
I'll
can
pick
touch up
those
some of his
last
little
points.
liver spots,
Question.
too.
Yeah.
You said can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying that public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying you can't,
Everybody
or
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no.
you can't trust the
No,
scientists.
well, no.
Talking about the people, the administration who's leading that.
The public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be
Yes,
suppressed.
well, that's
By the administration.
There's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people, they're, and by
I
the way.
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in
by
charge.
the way,
They will have the vaccine very soon.
you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies.
That's what you said.
Issue related to COVID. He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated. This is the lowest performance in the in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Don't ever use that word with me. Don't ever use it. Yes, we really shouldn't use that word with you, Trump.
God, we shouldn't.
If you would have had
Don't ever use that word with me. Smart. How dare you? How dare you use the word
the
smart?
history of our country.
Did you just say smart?
We're going to get to the economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
What?
Just shush for a minute.
He just shush for a minute.
And
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate. And he sits,
Right, you're
he
losing
sits
your
on
eye,
his golf
Nancy.
course. And, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably
All right,
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a
he
great thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute, Joe.
Let him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything
I'm
about
so
the
sorry.
disease. Now
It's
we
just
found
us laughing the whole
elderly
time.
people
Like,
with heart problems and
nothing- there's not
diabetes
much
and different
meaningful
problems are
shit
very, very
comment on
common.
here.
The
So
thing is, everything Trump says is just
Even younger people.
total bullshit lie. He has no conscience.
to his words.
More people
Biden-
will be hurt by
I mean,
continuing. If you look at
I don't trust Biden for anything, but at least, I mean, he can point out Trump's failings, and that's really the only advantage he
after the
has.
election.
I want to move on to another
Because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I gotta
subject.
respond.
But
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
now.
now.
Respond.
The states are not doing well, they're shut down. Yeah.
to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of
Yeah, we were Georgia was the first state to reopen, and we have one of the worst
questioning
infection rates
Understand if you look, I mean, I have
in
a
the
mask
world.
right here. I put a mask on it, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rally.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I
When-
don't
what
wear a
is
mask
when
like
needed?
him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask.
Does he have a mask on right now?
I will say
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no
the
serious
They've said that if you don't wear a mask, we'll save 100,000 lives. Okay.
I want to ask you, we got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly.
minute left.
Shoot.
in this segment.
The question is, do you question the benefit of
You just said you have a mask on you at all times and you wear them when you need them. But you just said the CDC said that masks
The
cause
way that you have campaigned,
infections.
holding large rallies.
What are you talking about?
Together, thousands of people.
outside.
Outside. Whoa.
Vice President Biden, you are holding much
safe.
smaller events with
Nobody will show up.
people with. In any case, why are you holding the big
You might be right.
Two middle school
You
boys
want to hear what I have to say? I mean,
arguing over a fart?
And I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
for
not
hangars,
worried about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues?
people. Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever.
Herman fucking Cain. Herman Cain got COVID at your rally and died.
Tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours.
Please, Chris Wallace, please bring up Herman Cain.
People someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
Gotcha.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
And his entire crowd was chanting no masks or whatever.
40,000
All right,
people
you wanna-
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem.
He's been totally irresponsible the way in which
And if Bernie was the nominee,
social
your rallies
distancing
would
and
be
people wearing masks,
decimated,
basically
asshole.
encourage them not to.
All right.
Then he's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
Nobody cares.
economy?
Yes.
What do you say about Herman Cain?
Is, I think,
His
we're
rallies.
recovering faster than expected from the shutdown in the second quarter. The unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery.
We're in a K-shaped
Vice
recovery.
President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard.
Certain
psychologically
segment of
to
the
do.
population
We should close
gets
it
a
down.
lot of money.
That makes
Another
sense.
section of the-
I was thinking, like, it has to go like
Still,
that.
200
Yeah, the K-shaped recovery is what's actually happening. Wall Street billionaires, people like Elon Musk, people like Bezos, people like Zuckerberg, their wealth is going straight up. People in the middle and lower class, their wealth is going straight down. We have a K-shaped recovery.
The likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down. He will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. A lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege.
North Carolina.
It is basically at the point where shutdowns
It's not fair. You're
so
talking
out
about
of
almost
control in
as
this
being in
country
prison.
that
Yeah, we're beyond. The community spread
Look at
is
what's going on with
the United States can't contain this virus. It's
Very, very
beyond
sad
that.
thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as
Incredibly well,
We
huh?
don't need somebody to come in and
Incredibly well. How many people are losing their homes? How many people are getting kicked out because they can't pay rent?
As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax.
Top 10 richest people in America have made $2 trillion in 6 months.
But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just no, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back?
Such a baby.
The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines. Those people who have been saving our lives. Those people who have been out there dying.
oh, oily.
Who have been putting themselves in a way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that
His facial
we
expressions
go forward
is
and open when you have
so
almost
dramatic.
a significant increase.
I think this is why I have social anxiety about my face.
Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools.
Or your income.
I don't think that you're going to make things much better for me either, though,
They were
Biden.
going to give, this administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've
a
done
world
nothing
emergency.
to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people.
Started as a small business
All right,
before.
your time is up, sir. We are going to get to.
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They
Yeah, of course
The
not.
ecosystem sucks.
Yeah, but they also don't want to die.
I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives.
People
They'll
want
be
to be
careful,
safe.
but they want their schools open.
People want
I'm
to
the
be
one that
safe.
brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
people of Ohio are very
Whoop-de-fucking do. 200,000 people are dead. And you Pac-10 football's going.
In a moment, but
No one gives a shit about that when 200,000 people are dead.
that is-
All your followers hate the NFL anymore anyway because
They care about Black Lives Matter.
Paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years.
So glad he brought this up.
I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of
that's not
dollars.
the damn question.
And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers that
Show us your tax
I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it.
As soon as it's finished, you said that 4 years ago.
118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the
He doesn't want to put this out here because Trump claims that his net worth is raised by $50 million because
No, Mr. President, I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us
because
how much you paid in federal income
just because of his
taxes
name.
in
His name
2016
Trump is
and
worth
2017?
$50 million, so that's his net worth.
You paid millions of
Motherfucker doesn't want you to see his real wealth.
And you'll get to see it. And you'll
Failure.
get to see it. But let me just
Inshallah.
tell you, Chris, let me just.
I encourage
You'll
you
see
to watch
it. You'll see,
documentaries on him.
you'll see it. I promise you'll see it when it's done.
Came here.
5 years ago, I heard that.
It was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid.
I'll show you my tax
The
records.
laws, and that's what it is.
118 pages doesn't take 5
Give
years.
us all these privileges for depreciation.
I can write
and
118
for
pages in
tax credits.
He just said, gave us all these
Tax
privileges.
credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue, you get a massive, which by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now the man got.
No,
You
no.
want to respond?
Yeah, I do want
No,
to.
no, this one is
Tax
time.
code
Doesn't
that
matter.
put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who in fact need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you
That's
do it
the-
over the last 25 years?
Because you were
Because he wasn't president?
You weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay.
including
47
the
months?
military that you gave me.
My mind is like,
Mr. President,
47 months? 47 months ago, you were fucking on reality TV.
Your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4
but
trillion
still, it's
over a decade.
more like
in new
44
taxes.
months.
This is reality TV.
Individuals making more than $400,000.
His administration has been reality TV.
President Trump says that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take
Increase the taxes on the 10 people. 10 people would make $2 trillion. Increase their taxes alone to make that difference up.
million more jobs than his.
That won't hurt me.
Number one.
That won't hurt me.
Number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my
Space
proposal,
Force.
we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
Well, by the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 19
shouldn't be 28% either.
companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were
dollars.
vice president
Because
with Obama?
I can't
You
believe
were vice president, not president.
that was
Right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done, and you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And
like it's
and
never boomed.
the economy-
I can't believe that it's an actual question. Would higher taxes on the wealthy hurt the
You would
economy?
continue your free market.
No!
Lower taxes, more deregulation.
Well, that's what you get when you have a Fox News host moderating.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years,
Oh my God, is this next to me?
more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
Slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the
That's not recovery.
That means jobs. It also means
No, it does not. Stock market means nothing. Stock market means rich
I
people.
want to terminate my taxes. I'll tell you what. You'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here. They'll leave for
hardly any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes
that-
of which you've never seen.
Look,
What's
What's sad is a lot of dumb
You're
people
already
believe
in
that.
the depression.
What's sad is a lot of dumb people believe that that's true, that things will get worse if billionaires are taxed more.
that created the jobs you're talking about.
The same people who are living in a trailer and
More like insulin.
It wasn't booming. and-
Boy, if we elect that Biden,
We ain't gonna afford this trailer.
When, in
When
fact, it was
COVID
right.
came.
It was
Those billionaires.
low unemployment.
getting taxed.
those billionaires get taxed. We ain't gonna be able to afford nothing. Because they'll raise the
Price
prices
is on us, and we'll have to buy more expensive shit.
Chris,
Number three.
they said it would take, no, you're on number two.
No,
Chris, they said it would
This
take a
guy.
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not do that.
standard fare.
He literally just gave you the actual numbers.
we brought back, I was asked
So
to
what?
bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
Based
on what?
companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to
I am pretty sure
Wait,
you're a liar.
Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. He talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art
can't
of the deal.
believe we're 15
We
minutes
have a
into
higher
this.
deficit with China now.
Are
than
we?
we did before.
China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million?
You
wanna talk about Moscow, motherfucker?
For
For real?
None
To
of
deserve
that is true.
$183,000.
None of
Ask a
that is
question,
true.
let him answer. If-
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really?
been
He didn't
totally,
get
No,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
ask the question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
it is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh,
President,
but, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
It's a fact.
Well,
There- it
you
is
have
not.
raised an issue, let the Vice
totally
President answer.
Discredited.
Did
There was a
Barista pay him
report.
$183,000 a month?
This is really starting to devolve into just,
President,
you're a liar, you're a liar. You
You
want to do this, but
Mr.
none of it's true.
You're socialist. Go
He
on.
didn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
who?
And you
The
can
media.
Billionaire.
Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies,
talk
by the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Who testified under oath.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
And
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm
Every-
listening to
even the
you.
people under,
You got $3.5
he
million.
testified-
Ooh, God.
he testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well. I did
Really?
it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
Some people don't do
Well,
a good
here's
job.
the,
With you,
Go
they
ahead,
say-
you get the, wait a minute, you get the final word, Mr.
well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown.
Problem.
Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say, Joe,
No, Mr. President,
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million from
It-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my
Let-
family
already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's
Every-
such a.
and they're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect
people.
$3.5 million.
He doesn't. That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right, that's
Not
the end
about
of
here.
the, that's the end of the segment. We're
Well, me, as the American people, really want
No,
Can I be honest?
fair
It's a
and
very
green New
important
Try to be
question.
honest.
I
That's a
He
good
stood
thing.
up.
Can I be honest? Well, yeah, we would love that.
no, sir.
With
I don't think so.
if you
That
get rid of
is
the-
You know what,
absolutely not
stop.
true.
You're,
doing it.
you're gonna have,
True.
Chris Wallace, you poor man.
I hate to raise my voice, but it seems to be, why should I?
This is the only moment in life where I wasn't.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think
Of course he will.
the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more
Well,
interrupting
that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
God! Sir, less than you have.
But you, it's you.
It's
you.
That President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question to you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent?
Like he didn't want to say that. It was like, the possible exception of Abraham.
Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America.
Equity.
But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, spewing, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very
Talk about right
fine
now.
people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
Finish this.
It is whose
Now,
two
second,
minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is
You never said that? Did you just say I've never said that?
Floyd was killed. There was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping
Whatever
African
it
Americans.
pisses Trump off,
One
that
in
it was the same
1,000
height.
African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look,
He's
Done
done
less.
less.
He's done
look at what he
less
talks
than
about.
nothing.
You have to look at what he did, and what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump.
Ask him about Breonna Taylor.
Should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United
shit.
States. I have Florida, I have Texas.
Because they're racist assholes. Like, what?
No
shit.
Portland, the sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying?
No one on the radical left supports Joe, you dumb shit.
If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you
I'd put out that fire. I'd kill all those citizens of my own country.
Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top
Fuck 12, Minneapolis. You did not get that shit back, honey.
are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're
No, we
afraid to
don't.
say it.
All right. I
I want
return
shit
the
to
question
burn.
of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor.
All cops are bad
Don't
because
like
they
it.
uphold us.
But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way,
You're almost
violence
there,
response
Joe.
is never appropriate.
But you're-
Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right, Ms.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town
President Trump,
and burn down your
President Trump,
stores and kill people all
President
over
Trump,
the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful?
peaceful.
What is a peaceful protest? When they run all over your town and kill people and burn it down?
We're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of
It's
people were
racist to have
that they were asked to do things that were
training
absolutely
about
insane.
race
It
relations.
was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it's
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values.
So racial sensitivity training, educating people on the complexities of racial issues and inequality is
And I'm not
racist.
going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
He
that.
is
Let him finish.
the racist.
The fact is that
That's with
there
you.
is racial
I can't get over that fucking tie. What is Joe Biden wearing?
what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people
Brought up
don't want
Breonna
to
Taylor.
hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism
Vice
in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now. But the reason
I don't know if it was more violent, but he isn't
who
wrong.
run these cities
Ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you
it
in
and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
law and order.
Loses law and order.
He wrote the damn crime bill.
Bill.
Where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down
He-
much more
he
than
had-
ours.
All right, we're
Sir.
Mr. President, you're
You
going
have anything to say, buddy?
Mr. President,
Every record in the
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to
Build the wall. Keep everyone in. More friends for me.
cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a tremendous increase in homicides in America this summer particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You could bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look
Chicago
at New
is having an
it's going up
epidemic.
like nobody's ever seen anything. The numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy
Party.
what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters.
He said law and order how many times
If
at
he
this
had
point?
got to run this
Just in this
country,
debate.
they ran it the way he would want to run it. We would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would be
way-
gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone. And
No more suburbs.
Sorry, guys, we're gonna just knock them all down for whatever reason.
All we have is cities and the rurals.
Raised in the suburbs.
No burbs.
No, nothing between.
All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does
Which is
reimagining
needed.
policing mean? And do you support,
It means
let me, if I might finish the question, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
look, what I
Just
support
Say
yes,
yes,
dude.
dude.
Just
Just
say
say
is
yes.
having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding in his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had
God.
before.
Thank God
We
for saying
also have
that.
to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're
that's
He's talking about
exactly-
defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
Well, you-
support.
look,
he has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No, no,
anything.
think
except
about
listen.
it.
All right,
Name one
folks.
law
This is
enforcement group that came out and
I think,
supported
gentlemen,
you.
Why?
I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue.
No, I don't think you want that
many
many
cities
police
that
groups
turned
supporting
violent.
you
In
right now.
Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned
They're not
into
peaceful.
riots. Mr. Vice President,
Well,
you say that people who commit crime
When
and it's
should be
legal to murder innocent black people. Riots are warranted.
Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted.
I'd say that's pretty
It
good.
should be prosecuted. And anyone who
Smart
commits it
answer.
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader, excuse me, sir, you had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to
Because
bring
they-
in the National Guard and not 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the
But
thing.
I sent in the
wait, I
U.S.
asked him a
Marshals to
question.
get the killer
No,
of a young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and
Right.
for 3
This-
days,
President Trump,
President
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
he's
had to send in
interrupted-
the U.S. Marshals. They
President
took
Trump,
care of business.
Go ahead.
So
sir.
annoying.
And by the way, you know, his own former spokesperson said, you know, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all
They
I
do.
about.
don't know who said that.
Violence and chaos help.
I think
Trump.
Kellyanne
Period.
Conway,
I don't
They
think
do.
who said that.
she said that. And so here's
All right.
but here's the point. The point is that that's what he is keeps trying to rile everybody up.
That's why divisiveness works for him. The more he can divide people, the more popular he gets.
People and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do?
Answering the questions does not get him votes.
Constantly.
Because he
Can't answer the questions. He doesn't know how to answer the questions. He just knows how to divide people, pin people against each other, piss people off, win some votes, try to make people work together.
Shows the natural
If you want to switch seats,
We could very quickly.
We can do that, but I'm
send
no,
in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
gonna
Are
win.
you
I'm willing
prepared to
do that,
specifically
but
do it? Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say,
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what do you?
Sure, I'm willing to do that,
I
but
do anything. I
fuck
want to see
the
that.
left.
Do it, sir.
Then do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would
right
you like me to
White
call?
supremacists.
and right
White supremacists.
Stand back and stand by, but I'll tell you.
Stand by?
Somebody
Stand
say
by?
something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His own
This is a left wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
on
problem.
white
Go ahead,
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his
It's an idea.
FBI. His FBI.
It's true.
100,000% true.
Moving on to the next.
I'm Antifa, but like I don't got a membership card, bitch.
Antifa, not an organization.
Corporate.
You have no ideas that are.
Antifa is a dangerous.
His face when he talks. He's just-
Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question, seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, "Don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative." And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you'll go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were
Going down his face.
saying it's time maybe, and then what happened? We got hit, but now
I feel like Trump is keeping.
There was
like,
unity going to happen.
Space Force and all of the other things.
I think
Fixing
Trump is keeping Biden.
which was a mess.
Biden president
308,000
conversation.
people died because they didn't have
Because
proper health care. He was
so
a mess.
fucking
And we
shocking.
now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've
you
rebuilt
don't.
our military. The job that we
Jon Stewart's whole. Jon Stewart is no longer a comedian because you don't take care of your fucking vets.
300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court judges, justices. That is a record, the likes of which.
So
What does that mean for me? What does any of that mean for me?
Many judges.
Yeah, you did shit. Okay, here's your cookie.
28
Where's your record?
judges.
Oh.
Phil,
What did you do for me? How'd you help my life? Because currently,
They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president, but I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term,
I'm sorry.
300.
I wish that vice presidents were,
Looking at both your records,
because I just really want to
voters
destroy
elect you
Kamala.
president as opposed to President Trump. You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was Vice President. We inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession with regard to being weaker. The fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Interesting strategy. I mean, it's not wrong.
By the way,
Where he's going with all this shit.
Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it.
Just
and
cut his mic. Why don't they cut his
the
mic?
campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more.
No,
$2 trillion.
You in the home, you got
In America.
You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent,
Chris Wallace is-
when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
I don't know, Bo.
Fuck you. You talking about Hunter? Of course you know he's not talking about Hunter.
Secretary. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It
For
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until
Where
you
is he
became
talking
vice
about?
president. Once you became
None of
vice
that is
president,
true.
he
Yeah.
made
So
a
what?
fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
my son,
have a
my
job.
son,
I
I do not like Biden.
like a lot of people,
God, Trump is the worst type of
drug
person.
problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed
I'm
it.
at the
He's
point
worked on it,
where
and I'm proud of him.
we've gotten through shit. Like,
All right.
But he wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions.
bring up the loss of a child, and I'm just like,
President Trump, you've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, right.
from the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
That
talk
is
about
not
it.
true.
Gentlemen,
That report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it
is
wouldn't
falling
cost
apart.
taxpayers money. That report is written for political reasons.
I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 5 years to confront
Finally a good
I
question.
want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at
You just allow lead to be put into waterways
businesses. Our
just
businesses
recently.
aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris
Please bring that
Accord,
up.
it was a disaster from our standpoint, and people are actually very happy about what's going on because our business.
Oh yeah, people in California are so happy about the state just wildly on fire.
I'm so happy about our house having a fucking
Pipeline,
interstate
an interstate pipeline running right fucking 30 feet over there.
Everything else, you drop a
From
cigarette in the
Maine
forest
to
goes out.
Houston.
You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. We're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
You
exciting.
sound like someone from the 80s.
Pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the
Management of our
California
forests.
is burning. California is burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls.
So you think it's up to humans
cities. They're called forest
to
cities.
prevent
They maintain their forests. They manage
fires from just burning by breaking them?
major country. It's a forest.
Guys, if you have anything that you want me to address, go ahead and just comment it on the most recent DemExit post so that I see it and can bring it up, okay? I've noticed a few of your comments on other posts.
Every year
So.
hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of management.
Sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the
Or
cost of
less
the car,
expensive.
you would have at least double and triple the number of cars
Aren't
purchased.
we
We have the
American?
old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper. By
If you did that, who are you? If you're the goddamn president, if you did that,
to afford a car. Now, so, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out.
I think. I mean, I know people who support Trump are obviously going to think he's talking gold. He's literally gold is falling out of his mouth. But I think for undecided voters who are watching this, and who actually care about these issues, there's just no way anyone can look at Trump and be like, "Yeah, he's the answer. He's the way we got to go."
I really think the Biden campaign team really well prepared him for this debate to be not holier than thou. And I mean, everyone is holier than thou than Trump, really. I mean, except maybe Jeffrey Dahmer. But, so it's not hard, but the strategy here is impressive.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact...
Although,
when
what
all
is
these
his
are
tie?
reactive,
What?
he's able
Like,
to
I don't.
charge, able to bring
What is he
down
wearing? I don't
of
understand.
renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another...
All they need to do is talk about Tesla right now and explain what Tesla is doing. If any of these fuckers knew what Tesla was doing with solar, electric vehicles, even car insurance, they could explain how. The future is cheaper, cleaner, safer, everything with that technology. So fund that technology.
We're going to build a...
I mean, funding, I mean, literally, provide companies that use technology like Tesla with funding. So, because Tesla's, most of the money that Tesla makes is from selling their clean energy credits. The solar energy that they capture, they sell that energy to other companies, and they profit off of that selling clean energy. That is why Ford is, I mean, until they have a legitimate electric vehicle that they can power with solar renewable energy, or whatever renewable energy, they will never, ever be able to compete. And they're so far behind, there's just no way. Catch up, in my opinion. But that is...
And the first thing I
If you want to deal with climate change, you got to deal with technology.
I will
You
join
have
the
to.
Paris Accord
That's
because
all.
that's happening.
That
It's
is
all falling
what
apart.
we have to do.
And talk about someone who has no...
We want to be capitalists at the same time. We got to turn towards Tesla's model
Brazil, the rainforest of Brazil are
and other companies like Tesla.
More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion. Say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests
Ending
and
the
economic interests?
destruction of the
And he's
rainforest.
on his line.
Tesla is the
He
answer.
still, for example, make sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem.
You have to use models
This
that
is a
work.
guy who says that
Use
you don't
economic
have to have
models that work.
standards for
What
companies.
company or what organizations have economic models that are sustainable and also clean, sustainable economically, but also sustainable environmentally?
billion or 20 billion.
I'd like to clarify that just because we're talking about Tesla does not mean we are Elon Musk fans at all. Okay?
I mean,
At all.
Elon Musk has profited, I think, the most, almost any billionaire in the past 6 months, and I believe he needs to. He doesn't deserve that money. But the reality is, it's because it's a massive transition of what's happening, what's going to happen in the next 10 years when it comes to clean energy. He is going to be the big beneficiary of that because his company is on the leading edge of that technology, and it's affordable for most people. They're about to release a $25,000 car that's fully solar powered, or that will be basically fully solar powered. Who else can do that? Who else is even close to doing that?
No
No
it's
one.
going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
He did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up a
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
The Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to rebuild
All right,
every
If he knew
have to-
anything
wait,
about,
wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement about the military.
This is
He
just
said something
like
about
an
the military.
absolute shit
He and his
show.
friends made it up.
Complete
They
shit
went
show.
with it. I never said it.
Okay.
that is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is
you're
he
done in
said
this segment.
he called the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
And he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape. He
Mr.
said
Mr.
stupid bastards. He
not
said
true.
it.
Stop.
I would never
Really?
say that.
Play it.
Stop.
Play it.
Go ahead. Mr. Vice President, answer his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all those grantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
Will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I
Done.
support the Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan.
Nothing new here, bro.
Green New Deal.
All right,
Nothing new.
Final segment.
Never
Election
there.
Integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election, and what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, We're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about
This is just
trying to
body
dissuade
language. It's
people
just
from
so
voting
like
because he's trying to
so weird.
to
You can
scare
tell when
people
he's
into thinking
uncomfortable
that it's
with
not going to be
being
legitimate.
said.
Yeah.
Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever ways.
I'm glad he's saying this and not
You
just
will
trash
not
talking what
stop
Trump has
you
done,
from
because
being able to determine the outcome of this
ultimately
election.
He's
And
rising
when
above
the
to the
votes are
ultimate
counted and they're all
degree,
counted,
Which
and
is what
that's
Bernie
really
did.
what,
Yeah.
yeah.
which is what Bernie did.
That will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure.
No, but I bet
understand
people in his
you have it in
administration
your
were like, we
control
have
to
to-
determine
we have to take
what this
some
country's going to look
high
like the
roads.
next 4 years. Is it going to change?
But at the same time, he's really just telling people to vote rather than saying, don't trust him on what he says about it. Because
when I
it's
listen
just
to
smart,
Joe
you know what I'm
talk
saying?
about
Like,
a
get out and vote.
transition, there's been no transition.
He doesn't need to
from
talk
when I
trash.
won that
Like,
election.
all him
And
bringing up
look at-
voting
look at
issues
Hillary Clinton,
against
look
his
at
voting
what
issues
she
will
did.
do will create more
There was no
distrust in the
transition
voting
because they
process
came
and
after me
discourage
trying to
people
do
from
a coup.
voting.
They came
So
after me
he's just
sponsoring
trying to
my
say,
campaign.
trust the
They
voting
started
process
from
and
the day I
go
won
vote. Don't
and
worry
even
about
before
what
I
it
won. From the
says.
day I came down the escalator with our first lady, they were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country.
Listen,
And
man,
we've
He's
caught
gonna
them.
just
We've caught them.
distrust
We've
distrust.
got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned,
Okay, he's all right. He sounds like a dictator right now. 100%.
ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump. Just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent
Yeah,
two
because
in the
certain
Democratic area. They
states
sent out 1,000
decided that
ballots.
if you didn't
Everybody got
release
2
your
ballots.
tax record,
This is
you
going
couldn't
to
get on
be
the
a
fucking
fraud
ballot,
like
you
you've never seen.
dumbass.
The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months, because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not
You just
losing
admitted.
2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major
No,
states
time-
with that.
sir,
All run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
All
You're-
run by
you're-
Democrats. It's
President
a fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett,
He
to
looks
just
settle any dispute?
Yeah,
Family
I
Guy
think I'm
version.
counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But
They
what are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What
is
are
you
gonna
go and
do?
vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and that's
I
okay,
know
or
your
you go and
complaint.
vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and
received-
vote. You go and
No,
vote
but what I'm saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people?
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia.
So you're saying you mail in ballot or
They're
vote
being
in
sold.
person,
They're
which
being
is
dumped in
your
rivers.
two options anyway.
This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is not
evidence
going
of
to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden.
5 states
In fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because
You're
he knows
wrong.
the outcome.
You're
No,
wrong.
I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love that.
Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement
no,
like that.
excuse me, Vice President Biden. The biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting, has not been fraud. Historically, it has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court, with a Justice Barrett, will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake
up on 'em.
and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted
That makes
for.
such
say
good
it's
sense.
That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me,
No,
Chris,
no, no.
when you
I
have
a
80
final-
million ballots
Gentlemen, I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system,
you
know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
You sound
it's-
scared about that idea. That idea sounds very threatening to you.
Final question is,
80
in
million
8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
In
a-
8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is.
That's
So,
right in there.
First for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight
love
that
this
you will
answer.
not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am
Also 'cause you can't-
urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're
election,
urging-
You want people to
I am
watch
100%
other people
for it.
voting?
But if I
That's
see
definitely not
ballots
illegal.
being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
And
you
what
what,
does that mean
from a
for the
common
law?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're
tell
gonna
you
tell
what
your
it means.
people
So your-
It means you have
your
a
answer
fraudulent
is-
election. You're
And what
sending
are you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about that?
not equipped to
Sounds like a
those people
person.
are handle it. Number one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
You think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President
thought they
Biden,
couldn't be
final
opened.
question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military.
Because he made all the irrational
ballots for
Yeah,
certain-
Maybe
points
like
that
yeah.
people know are not real.
and that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots.
Except for
That
that
somehow
guy.
it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
Except for that guy.
Go ahead.
They had no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
Trump is
The only person establishing that.
The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an
Okay,
honest ballot cut.
gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
He's like, this is the end. Shut up. Shut up.
To be
looks like-
continued as
he-
more debates as we go on.
I just,
President
if I was a Trump supporter, I wouldn't feel.
An interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah.
You can join us for another live
Vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until
You're gonna
then,
definitely join us for that one. Oh my God. Kamala Harris, Mike Pence. Jesus Christ.
That's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. You can tell Trump still wants to talk. Like he's still trying to say shit.
He's not ready to be done. So like the next debate is gonna be fucking wild. Like, okay, the first lady just walking on.
Yeah, somebody didn't tell her to do that. She didn't give him a hug or anything.
Yeah, you did good. You did
Look
good.
at that hug. And she has a mask on.
Make fun of her for having a mask on. Go ahead. They're fucking old.
I
They're
have a
old.
suit that looks just like Melania's, and I wear it much better.
Well, that was a shit show, like I expected.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for this incredible little live we had. This was our first live, so we apologize for any errors, issues. If there's anything that we can correct in the next live, please let me know so that I can try to make sure that it's fixed. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to have a lot of videos coming out this week. Life was hectic, but so a lot of the videos that have been pre-recorded are going to be coming out this week. Look at our shop at DemExit.store to find a lot of anti-Trump and anti-Biden gear.
And Black Lives Matter.
Also, Black Lives Matter.
Debate of 2020. It's time to hear your voices and get your views on what you.
And we will definitely be expanding. And if you're an artist, please DM me with any of your artwork that you might want to be selling, because when all of the proceeds will go to you, you're the artist. We would love to feature your work on our site. Also, if you submitted a donation during this live stream, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it. Our PayPal link will be more available more often. We really can't appreciate it. We can't thank you enough for donations, because donations are how we're able to spend basically all day every day doing videos and writing scripts and researching and digging as deep as possible and looking at like psychology experiments on the political mind, stuff like that. So just really appreciate you guys. We're so thankful. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Join in next week for the next presidential debate, and we're definitely going to do a live stream for Kamala and Mike Pence, because that sounds like a fucking hoot.
Yeah, that should be really
All right.
A guy who's not comfortable being alone with another woman.
With a black Indian woman on stage. Oh my god, that sounds amazing. Alright, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Again, y'all are amazing. DemExit Rebels are how we're able to do anything.